Donc là, nous avons quelques dessins réalisés par Jacques Halbronn pour exposer le système dont elle se sert, solilunaire.
Qui a été constitué par une équipe, enfin, dont le principal acteur est Danny Herman, que nous avons par ailleurs l'intention d'interviewer à notre moment. Et donc, parmi ceux qui ont travaillé avec Danny Herman, il y a Jacques Halbronn, et puis Micha Wellner aussi, qui lui travaille surtout actuellement aux Pays-Bas, en Hollande. Et de quoi s'agit-il? Donc je vais exposer un peu rapidement. Il s'agit d'un système qui est axé sur les positions des planètes en maison, qui tient compte du fait que la personne est née le jour ou la nuit. Et l'idée, c'est que la planète, bien évidemment, n'aura pas la même signification selon que l'on est né le jour ou la nuit. Et ça, c'est un facteur qui vient s'ajouter à la position de la planète en maison. C'est-à-dire que généralement, quand on étudie la planète en maison, on n'accorde pas une importance particulière au fait que le Soleil soit sous l'horizon ou au-dessus de l'horizon. Enfin, en tout cas, ce n'est pas l'élément clé qui va déterminer que la planète sera interprétée différemment. Jusqu'à présent, on disait simplement la planète dans une certaine maison, elle a une certaine signification. Maintenant, la signification que la planète aura en maison dépendra du fait que le Soleil est sous l'horizon ou au-dessus de l'horizon. Donc c'est ce facteur-là de la place du Soleil. On ne peut pas comprendre la signification de la planète en maison si on n'a pas situé déjà par rapport au fait que le Soleil est sous l'horizon ou au-dessus de l'horizon. Bon, alors on verra ça après avec Jacques Halbronn qui est de mes côtés. Et ça, évidemment, ça permet, je suppose que c'est ça la question, ça permet d'éviter certaines erreurs, de ne pas, si on ne tient pas compte de ce facteur qui est essentiel, il est évident qu'on va faire des erreurs. Voilà. Donc là, on sait qu'il y a tout un ensemble d'astrologues qui disent pourquoi on fait des erreurs en astrologie. Et ils disent, ah ben on fait des erreurs parce qu'on a oublié ceci ou cela. Donc finalement, Danny Herman dit, il ne faut pas oublier, pour comprendre toute l'interprétation du thème, il ne faut pas oublier, il ne faut pas négliger le fait que la personne est née la nuit ou le jour. I will translate. I summarize in a very short formula. That the big idea of Danny Herman was that was because he's not any longer a practitioner. Yeah, the big idea is that don't forget where the moon or the sun, where the moon is. No, the moon is not no important. Where the sun is, because if you forget where the sun is, then you will not understand that. There are two possibilities for each planet in one house, two possibilities to understand it, which will be very different, which will give very different lives and very different characters. And this is the idea. The crucial point is if the person, it is true that in modern astrology, contemporary astrology, people are not giving as much importance as you do to the position of the sun in the chart. It is a key position which will dominate the whole interpretation. It's like in music, you know. It's a key. Okay. We give the keys if it is key night, key sun, everything will have a different music.
But I think it will change the arrangement of the planets. In other words, if you have Pluto on the first house and you were born at night, let's take Clinton for example, he has a solar Pluto on the first house Okay, he is very charismatic. He's got solar Pluto, which is very charismatic and very powerful.
And in this case, he was born.
But he will have a lunar Pluto on the 4th and the 10th, and he had many upheavals in his life, and also had a tough childhood. While somebody else who was born during the day and has a lunar Pluto on the 1st or the 7th, and therefore he will have a solar Pluto on the 4th and the 10th, he will be, let's say, lunar Pluto will make him afraid of death and uptight personality, but he will have an authority at work or at home that will lead him to a very powerful career.
I forgot to say that donc je dis que pour Danny Herman, j'ai oublié de dire que il classe les planètes en 2 groupes et que ces 2 groupes ont des modes de fonctionnement inversés. Et effectivement, il y a le groupe Mercure, Mars, Saturne, Pluton, qui sont des planètes quand même assez acides, assez disons, agissant de manière assez puissante et qui vont avoir qui vont avoir au rapport aux maisons, selon des règles qu'il a fixées, qui ne sera pas le même que l'autre groupe qui est constitué de Jupiter, Neptune et Vénus, qui lui aura une autre façon. Donc en fin de compte, au lieu de dire que dans chaque cas la planète sera différente, il va donc quand même déjà constituer 2 grands groupes. Et ces 2 grands groupes auront un rapport avec les maisons qui sera à peu près quand on est dans un certain groupe, on aura un certain type de rapport avec les maisons. Quand on est dans un autre groupe, on aura un autre type de rapport avec les maisons. Et c'est cette règle-là qui va jouer. Donc il n'y a pas une théorie spéciale pour chaque planète. C'est une théorie pour 2 groupes de planètes. Et à l'intérieur de ces 2 groupes, bon, il y aura des variations, il y aura des différences. Donc ça, c'est aussi un apport de Herman, c'est de dire que les 2 groupes de planètes, ce sont justement ces 2 groupes de planètes qui vont, selon que la planète est née. Alors, il y a des planètes qui seront, donc selon que la personne, il y a des planètes qui auront un certain type de caractère quand la naissance est le jour, un autre type de caractère quand la naissance est la nuit, et apparemment pour l'autre groupe de planètes, c'est l'inverse. C'est-à-dire que c'est ce qui caractérise, il va y avoir un renversement qui vient du fait que le renversement dans le rapport aux maisons, une théorie des rapports des planètes aux maisons qui sera renversée selon que la personne est née le jour ou la nuit. Donc effectivement, alors d'autre part aussi, une autre particularité intéressante, c'est que il étudie toujours les planètes par 4. C'est-à-dire alors il utilise un système de maisons à peu près égal. Donc c'est pour ça qu'il raisonne en termes de conjonction, carré et opposition, ce qui est un langage qui est plutôt un langage qui n'est pas utilisé pour les maisons. D'habitude, on ne dit pas on ne parle pas de quadrature. We don't speak in general of square between two houses, or it depends. It will depend. Here it is systematic. If you have, for instance, Uranus in Taurus in 10, you will have necessarily Uranus in 7, also in square. So, okay. So it is.
One of
what
the
you want?
main
What? Yes.
is the usage of planets. Is Jupiter is in its solar interpretation will be like the Jupiter of Sagittarius, while Jupiter in its lunar will be like.
Yes. So I think what you want to say is the way he has interpreted these 2 groups of planets is also influenced by the fact that each planet, apart from this, has 2 signs. 2 signs.
And 2 aspects.
Well, it has 2 signs. That is for instance, and he has decided that, for instance, Neptune will not only rule Pisces but also Sagittarius, which is not necessarily what is accepted by everybody.
By some,
but,
yes.
But at least it affords to have something complete.
Yes.
So he will say, okay, so there he will, when Neptune will be the Neptune of Sagittarius or the Neptune of Pisces, it will depend on the fact that you were born during the day or during the night.
It will be both in each chart.
Yes.
It will just be in
Yes.
different places.
Yes. So
We all have all the interpretations for all the planets.
yes.
They will be
Yes.
arranged in different.
Yeah, because in fact, since he always considered 4 houses at the same time, there will be, of course,
There will always be a conjunction, an opposition,
Yes.
and a square.
so as I said, what he tries to build a structure based on the houses, the rulerships in a certain way, because this rulership also belongs to a sort of
It's not
classic.
rulership. It's classical rulership, but it's not the rulership.
No, but it is based
Doesn't
on a
matter.
mathematical system
Yeah.
of the rulership. The rulerships also have their Mercury is symmetrical, they are symmetrical,
Yeah.
2 Venuses are symmetrical, but 2 Jupiter. So he likes the idea of the rulership as a symmetry, but he likes the idea that the houses create something very clear. He tries for the planets to create 2 groups, but of course the connection with the planets will depend totally on the aspects which they have or not. It doesn't build it doesn't build an elaborate relationship between the planets. It's only through the sign, through the rulership, and through the houses that it is very structured. And
It's
this
also structured.
structured by the aspect.
Yeah, the aspects between the planets. There is a way of calculation of when it is solar, Venus with lunar Mercury, or the opposite.
So now that we know that you're using this sort of system, so you believe that it is necessary, it is possible in astrology to reach a better. So you think that someone who doesn't use this system, he will make mistakes in
No, I
the.
don't think so. I don't know. I use this one.
He
I
will,
don't know.
if he doesn't take these points into considerations, his interpretation will not be as precise and as direct as what you do. In a certain way. All right, but it's normal that you can think like that. Okay, so you think that every astrologer does the right,
Yeah, I
works
use
properly.
this system. For me, it
Yeah.
works better. And it doesn't work 100%. There is nothing that I've seen that works 100%. I can make mistakes, but it's easier to see. Sometimes it makes it easier to see, even in prediction, when it's a solar planet or a lunar planet. It makes a big difference in the interpretation.
I think that when Danny Herman came to Athens, he gave a seminar on these questions in '82. Yes, he came specially to Athens in Greece to explain how it would work. And you know why he has left astrology? He was not too much satisfied with this sort of field, or any
He went to
explanation?
computers and now to marketing, and I think some very multi-talented people
Yeah, sure.
need to do a few things.
Yes. And so it's
We need it indeed.
already more than 25 years that you are using this system.
Yes.
So so what? Let us imagine. Okay, so it's okay. So what can you propose to your clients? What sort of information you think that you can give today to your clients when they come to you?
Well, I think I could make a reasonable character analysis. I have more details than if I had only one facet of the planet, and I could consider both in the same chart. Every chart has 20 planets or 18 planets instead of 10. Because I have, like, everybody will have a lunar Pluto and a solar Pluto, just in different places, and a lunar Neptune and a solar Neptune. And also, so it gives more subtlety to it gives
Là, nous sommes devant le Binyan Haouma, la rue principale de Jérusalem, la rue Jaffa. Ok. Oui, okay, so it's a more subtle interpretation, you have more factors. As you said, there are 12, you double the number of factors in a way.
Yeah.
Symmetrical processes and... voilà. Bon, donc...
And also, in the prediction, a lunar Pluto is totally different than a solar Pluto.
Tell me about the prediction. What system of prediction do you use? You use a transit, you have progressions, what do you use?
I use transits.
Is there any approach? What does that, for Danny Herman, did he change the system of prediction? I don't think about the interpretation, but how do you calculate the important times, the important dates, important events? Did he build a new system, or did he follow the classical system?
Almost the classic, except the more important, the most important events happen when you have transits over the axis of 4 and 10, and 1 and 7 is a little less, and also on the axis of the houses.
Yes, of course. Oui, of course. It is logical. It is logical. Like, if he has a system which gives importance to a certain axis, then if there is a planet on this axis, it will.
Yeah.
That's it. So in fact, this is the contingent aspect. I mean, this is not a system. This depends on the movement of the planets, and it's more open. There's something very structured, and there is, of course, something very open. Because if it's a transit, there is nothing very, very systematic about why, in what order a planet will transit. Why would you have first in your life a transit of such planet or another planet? This is something you cannot control. The order of the transit cannot be controlled. While you have other people like me, for instance, where what I control is precisely this problem. Because I work on a special planet, and I have a special cycle, and there is no interference. It is always the same planet with the same cycle. So it's not sometimes this, sometimes that, which occurs. It's always the same structure, which will correspond to a cycle. And I will not say, oh, maybe you will have something else coming from somewhere else, another planet transiting at a certain moment. So it is interesting to see that although the system is very structured, it leaves a lot of freedom to the process of the planets.
No, it doesn't.
Because the planets they will come the way they come.
Oh, okay, because it's transit. You could use progression as well.
Even progressions, it's the same. What you do, maybe you have not seen this point. Everything is very structured, except for one point. It is in what order the planets will interfere. And it will be totally dependent on the movement of the planets.
Yes.
And this is something you cannot control.
Okay.
You can study the effect, but you cannot say, your life will be based on the fact that there will be first. Well, you could say that, but you will have to. Danny Herman can help you when you want to say, well, now there is this which happens. What does it mean?
It doesn't contradict all the others. All the other systems.
No, not the other system that you know, but the system that I have is another. Because most astrologers have always tried to have a very coherent basis.
but they have never been able to
It's
bring a
more coherent, not very
yeah,
coherent.
they have tried to have a more coherent basis with ruler ships, with houses, etc. But one thing they haven't been able to control and to order is in what order the planets will come in your life.
Yeah, you can.
While this is precisely what happens now. We try to build an astrology where the order of the events is structured. It is not going to be. For example, if you take this example, you have Neptune. Okay. At a certain time, you have Neptune transiting this. Then what? Well, you look in the ephemeris. Oh, next time there will be Venus transiting this axis, and next time there will be something with Saturn, and next time Saturn. So every time something happens, which is totally unexpected and which depends on the movement of the stars.
Yes, but according to the birth chart, I will see.
Progressions.
No, just the birth chart. For
Yes.
example, if somebody has a lot of, let's say he has a Uranus, solar Uranus and solar Pluto on the 10th house,
Yes.
I would know
Yes.
that he will have a lot of changes.
When something will happen, when the planet
When
will pass.
I know his general destiny, I know he will have a lot of changes, and I will figure out the changes when the transit comes
Yes.
will affect him more than somebody who has
Yes.
nothing on 10th
Sure,
and 4th.
sure.
Okay?
This is obvious.
Yeah.
But you will not be able to say to the person, well, your life is based on a certain cycle,
No,
which will always pass at certain moments here
Yeah,
and there,
no.
and there will be no thing which will happen from time to time.
Not according to this system, but
No, but
there
this
is
is
no
a-
contradiction.
No, but this is it is a difference between
Okay.
21st century and 20th century. The 20th century is a sort of astrology that Danny Herman has developed and improved in a way, because and what is very important in what he has done, he has tried to be more rigorous, more precise in the way we should, like, as I would say, well, if something happens to you, what is the best thing to do? I don't know when it's going to happen to you, but if it happens to you, let's take it in the best way. This is a sort of, I would say, yes, you have a planet at a certain moment, at a certain point, it arrives. What should you understand? What should you do? Understand?
You could use any other system in addition. It just
Yes.
doesn't make any difference.
No, I agree. I would just say what is the purpose. I try to
See, I'm not Danny Herman, and I'm not continuing him as you may use anything. I mean, you may use a system with other systems.
Sure.
It's not a pure.
No. It's not my point. I agree totally. I just say that. Well, let's forget about Danny Herman. The general astrology that we have here, and Danny Herman is part of this astrology.
It is not a big part like that.
No, okay, it's just a part. I'm not. So let's forget. Now we are
It is
considering.
just in our system. I mean, but everybody takes it to where he wants to do. All it has more planets than others.
Okay,
You could
let's
use
forget.
any
Okay.
other.
No,
I
now,
use the
now,
Indian
now
system.
I'm not discussing about Danny Herman.
No, not that Danny
I'm
Herman.
discussing about astrology as it is today.
It is in France. It is in the States. It is. Everybody has different.
But there is a general tendency.
Yeah, there is a general tendency, and
Which
it
I would
does
like to
not contradict.
No, it's not. I said precisely, it belonged to this general tendency. Okay? Okay. So, now we are speaking, we forget Danny Herman, we are just considering what most astrologers do, okay? And what they do, as we are making this conclusion, that is that the astrologer can make many efforts to understand what is in the chart, to understand what is at a certain moment in the life of the person, but is not able to present a coherent conception about the way of the cycle of the life. You know, there are so many cycles, there are so many planets, there are so many
You
possibilities.
could use them in addition. It's a set.
We don't speak now about. We don't speak about Danny Herman. We speak about the astrologers in general. Okay. Don't speak about Danny Herman now. I say what most astrologers, including Danny Herman, do today is what I say. It's not. I don't want to isolate what he says from the others. No. There is always one moment where we try to isolate it and to differentiate. Now we forget that and we include it in a more general problem, which is a problem of modern astrologers and how they work. So there is always a time for that, another time for that.
Yeah.
Now we are integrating what he has done into a more general problem, which is still remaining. Because the problems that he has solved do not solve all the problems.
Oh, no. And it's not always precise, and you have to really make sure that you have the exact minute of birth, and
Well,
up to 4 minutes.
if you make progressions, you mean?
No, you need even for transits.
Yes, of course, but I mean it will not. If it's yes, for some transits it may be very important to be more precise.
Yeah.
But in many cases, for example, you have a Saturn, even the transit of Saturn or Jupiter, it doesn't depend on a few minutes of.
See, I take it, when I use prediction, I'll take it only when it's in exactly, but this is me, because
So you're
I
going
told
to
you
say the right day,
minimum.
the right. I mean, you want to be.
That's the Indian. And
You want to be. You will
More
say at what
specific.
time, at what hour of what day. Yeah, of course.
you can do it, that's what I learned in
And-
India.
Oh yeah, the Nadis, etc.
So I use the minimal, okay? And I use
So
the
you-
main transits of the slower planets
Yes.
on the axis of the houses. I do use also on planets, but not as much as I use the axis.
D'accord. Okay, so
And
you are
it's still not very,
Yes,
then
so-
it's not complete,
well,
obviously.
so you think that yes, the progress of astrology is to be as precise as possible as to the moments something in the stars will provoke something on Earth, and that's why even a few minutes
Yeah.
difference
More than 4
in the
minutes.
birth time can interfere with the quality of your work.
Yes,
Sometimes not, sometimes more,
more,
sometimes less.
yes. So
But perfect consultation would be perfect. The ideal consultation, according to you, would be to be able to indicate a certain type of event for a certain day and for a certain hour.
no, you have to have
Certain day, yes. Or certain week.
Also, no, I take it in 10 months, and the slower planets go for about 10 months.
Yes, of course.
And 3 times. So I take all these 10 months.
Retrogradations. But for a quick planet, it's going to be more precise.
The quick planets I don't use.
You don't use. So finally, you don't. But for a slow planet, a few minutes difference will not be so
In the
important.
birth planet.
Yes.
If you have 15 minutes, that's
Yes.
4 degrees. It may be a difference of a year or two.
That's true.
in Pluto or Neptune.
You're right. You're right. You're quite right. Because since Pluto might take a long time to pass from 1 degree to another, that will make a big change. For a quick planet, it won't be a big change, but for a
Yeah,
small
for a small planet,
it can
it's
be
a
a few months.
Yeah.
Because it remains so long at the same degree that it's true. So I understand that. It's obvious. All right. So I had another question to ask you. So psychology. So you are more precise. You want a precision in. So yeah, my question is, what is an event? What sort of thing can we announce in astrology? Is it very? Can you reach quite a great precision in even in any sense. For instance, is every time a major event, or is it maybe something?
No, I look only at the major event.
And what is a haya alperstein? What is, according to you, an event? Maybe it may be a curious question. What is an event, and what makes something being an event? For instance, I give you an example. For instance, you drive. You take always alcohol when you drive, and someday you will have some problem.
Yeah.
Okay. This is an event. Or you never close your door when you leave your apartment. One day someone will come in there. So it is always connected with a certain lack of vigilance, a certain lack of attention, carelessness. Carelessness creates a lot of events.
Yeah, right.
If you don't take any risk, if you are very careful, if you have a client who is very careful, the events will come from what happens to the others.
Right.
For instance, your wife had an accident,
right. Or you're sick.
I mean,
or you have...
No, because if you are sick, it's also because sometimes you are not careful.
No, but sometimes it's not because you're not careful. Sometimes, I mean...
In many ways, it's connected with... Well, it is one of things we discuss also a lot in France, is the fact that if you live without taking too many risks in a careful way, the idea of a big event will not exist as much as if someone is very careless about his money, about his connection with people, about the way he leads. He will take so many risks that he will have many events in his life, you know.
Yeah, but let's say somebody is very careful and one time is not, which happens all the time. And also you could be sick if you get cancer or heart attack. It's not necessarily because you didn't take care of yourselves.
Yes, more or less, yes. But
well, that's
yes,
so
but
quite a few others. Or if you drive carefully, especially in Israel, it does not mean that you are going to be alive after the drive.
If you don't drive carefully, it is also more risky.
Yeah, but here many people who drove carefully
I've seen the
everywhere.
television.
Yeah.
I know it's
so, or you could have a missile, or you could have anything.
Yes. So everybody is interested to know what could happen to him, even if it's something which doesn't depend on him.
Yeah.
And when it's going to happen. So what happens when people know about something which can happen? What should they do? Can they avoid it? Can they prepare themselves to it? What is the best attitude to have when you receive certain information about what's going to happen to you?
Okay, me personally, I use more psychological analysis and whatever, not only but just a character analysis. But if I say something, a prediction, it should be something that the person can not completely avoid, but can do something about it. I won't say, even if I see it, I don't. Many times, but I used to when it was stupid. After I came back from India, I said somebody will die, so I won't say it. Because it doesn't help. And in the West you don't do it. In India, you say to people when they die, when they will die, when their husband will die, and their children, etc. So here it doesn't work. But as a rule, whatever I know, I say only if somebody can
do something.
Do something about it.
But what do you think about, you have just mentioned now India, do you think that all these astrologers, they are very careless, in fact, because they are taking so many risks by being so precise about things?
First of all, India has a lot of mediums too. And I don't know if they don't use together,
help.
But because I did study in India, I know there are many people who are extremely precise.
And you understand why they are precise.
Yeah.
It's only because it only depends on the calculation. It's nothing else.
Nothing else.
Okay. So if we are to believe in that,
I don't know if I don't know why they do it, but they do it. I don't know if all the calculations, because I did study in India and I couldn't do it with it. Well, I don't use it all the time, but you can't, I don't think you can get to, or I haven't seen anybody except for mediums who knew exactly what's going to happen. I could have a range of time of 10 months, and I could tell somebody that one of the frames of your life, let's say your family or your work, is going to change, and what will happen if they change, or in what degree, and what.
So you really think it's not as no, because it's always puzzling. You say there are non-things, and that's a French. And I know a Western astrologer would say, well, if I do that, I have many chances to be wrong. Or
right.
So they don't care about what, because. And another question I would like to ask: do you have any influence about the people when you speak to them? So much that you might influence their life.
Well, since I minimize everything. Well, that's me personally. I won't say I'll take the things that almost for sure will happen, and I won't be precise what.
Okay, my question is, we
have,
for instance, the idea of precision in psychology. Let's come back to the psychology first. I am someone who's rather skeptical about all these things, I must admit. But first, do you think that people, let's forget about forecast, okay? Mm-hmm. You think people know themselves? They will say, oh, you're right, I know myself, and I know that you are right. Is it the way you think it works? That people will tell you that what you tell them is true from what they know, or is it something else? Okay. What do you think? What happens when someone listens to what you say? Will he confront that to what he knows about himself, or will he say, well, maybe she's right. Maybe I should look at myself this way.
See, I'm trying to find the root and not the symptoms. Like, let's say I'll tell somebody that he has an anxiety of death, which is everybody has, but he's got it more, let's say. And I will explain to him how it manifests in his private life. It could be that he's afraid of separation. It could be in different ways. Like it could be that it could be that he tries to control other people. It will be that anything that's specific to him. But when I say you have a fear of death, he will tell me, doesn't anybody? And I say, so actually what I'm doing, I'm saying, well, you have a little more than most people, and that's how it manifests in your life. And he would usually connect to the way it manifests in his life, but he obviously didn't think that he has a death fear, for example, or a death denial, or whatever.
My question is, do people know themselves? I have the feeling that in certain ways, people want to know about themselves more than they know about themselves. They don't want to check they don't want to check astrology. They want to know what astrology has to tell them about themselves. And they are not going to be so critical about it. They are going to accept what the astrology says and say, well, since astrology says that, it must be true. And I will accept it.
No, see, I conduct it as, well, obviously as an advice, giving or whatever, but people who come to me, it's also how you put yourself or where you started. I started because I worked in psychological institutes, and I did a lot of diagnosis for psychologists, and so people who come to me do want a psychological analysis. Yes, they want the forecast too, but mainly they come for the psychological analysis.
I agree, but the problem remains, what is a psychological analysis, and what is what is their attitude towards what they hear? Do they think, are they trying to? I mean, one of the when, for instance, you said it works. Okay, you use this expression sometimes. You say, well, it works.
Yeah.
What shows you that it works?
If I could see on a person that he will tell me what he's doing, and I could see if it suits or not. It doesn't work 100%, but
as you said about planets, you said that planets have several facets.
yeah.
I think people also have several facets.
Yeah.
And you can develop one facet which will not be exhaustive, which may be, okay, that does exist, but I have also other aspects you don't mention to me. Okay, well, why not this?
Yeah, I don't mean.
The personality is rather rich in many prospects.
I'm trying to find out what's the main thing, or the main things. What are the main things that drive a person? That's all. I don't try to make a complete character analysis. And if somebody comes to see me, he wants another point of view. He goes to a psychologist.
Another point of view, yes.
Yeah,
Another point of view. It's a very good expression. What we say in French, it's another grille. Another. Okay. So, as you can say, every point of view has a certain value.
Yeah. If it's suitable to what happens to him now. I'm trying to see at least part of the main things that drive a person to do what he wants. Like, let's go back to this example of death fear. A person driven by a death fear, like many, for example, many businessmen or many others who are almost paranoid, like Andy something from Intel wrote a book.
Who?
Who formed Intel?
I'm sorry. Anyway.
Intel. Anyhow, he wrote a book, Only Paranoids Succeed, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one, which is true, because a person who is driven by death fear would try to make more, because he always sees death in advance. He's usually not aware of it, but he wants to do everything now, to have enough time to make it.
Yeah, sure.
So a person would relate to the way he behaves. He probably wouldn't think it comes because his death fear is a little bigger than others.
Well, let's pass to other aspects. For instance, when people ask you how the stars act upon us, what do you say?
Well, I say that I don't know how they act, if they act. I'm not a physicist. But I say it is an assumption, a mystical assumption that things that start at the same time have the same, not exactly, but a similar way of life.
Yes.
So that's what I base it on.
Yes. Do you think that, for instance, I don't know, do you work on mundane astrology, or are you interested by political life, or
What?
politics?
Yes.
Astrology and politics. The
The
astrology of the leader. You mentioned Clinton, for instance.
Yeah.
Do you think that these people have a different? It's a rather surprising question for you, maybe. That you think that great leaders are more influenced by the stars than normal people?
No, I don't know. I can't say. Sometimes I could say if somebody is going to do something bigger than.
There was at the beginning of the century, a few decades, they would say, well, not everybody is influenced by Neptune, not everybody is influenced by Pluto. Only certain people can catch this influence. You know, this was a general idea in the 40s or something. Now everybody has the right to have his Pluto and his Neptune, as you say. And there is an opposite tendency, which I represent today also, is that in fact this is a sort of hierarchical system that only the leaders are really connected and keep and capture the influence of stars, and then they bring this influence to the people who are following them. You see, so, and etc. And it's and on and on and on. You know? That is, the contact with the stars would be only for a very limited number of people who have a special strength, a special personal movement, and they get in touch with other people and with other people, etc. You know, and this is a theory which rejects totally the idea that everybody has his own chart, etc. Totally another type of chart. That's why I was speaking about the 21st century, which is connected with first the idea that there are very few planets which we have to consider, and so that we have a very clear system of cycles which do not depend on too many interferences, and that in fact originally there are very few people who receive at the moment of this. Afterwards, it can. Because you mentioned what is a sort of synchronistical astrology. You see, that what happens with us is what is written in the stars at this moment.
Yeah.
More or less what you were saying.
Yeah, there is a parallel.
Yeah, parallel. Yeah. And this is what we call the other theory is that there is a cause. It is, for instance, one of the big questions today is astrology connected with the cause or with the results? As you said, to know the final result is difficult. And if, for instance, if you take, for instance, 2001, what happened with the Twin buildings, and it's obvious that there is, of course, what happened this day, but it was prepared before. The cause came before. So if astrology is a science of what happens, of course we have to study what are the stars this day. But if astrology is a science of what begins, what starts, then it is another story. And it is also something which is a preoccupation for astrologers today, that they say, well, that's right. What is the event astrology should study? Where astrology has something to say? Is it when something happens in a very total, complete, absolute expression, or when things are starting?
Yeah.
Sometimes, for instance, even a war. If you take a war, well, of course, at a certain level, it becomes a real war. But maybe it's in a small cabinet with a few people that it was decided. And astrology has more to do with these few people who decide the war, or the time when the whole army arrives and starts to shooting, etc. See, and now we tend to think that astrology should concentrate, and it's interesting because the same thing with the birth. There's a time of conception and a time of birth, and people prefer the time of birth, obviously, because time of conception is not always easy to know, and even you cannot, we don't know necessarily when something has started.
Yeah.
So we prefer to know when it has arrived.
Right, and I want to. I take what I know. I mean, I can't.
Yes.
I was
Exactly.
going around with conception. But who knows if all the calculations are right? So I prefer to take the sure things, and for me it's enough that I know a few things and not everything. But the slow planets, what I want to tell you is the slow planets have a long process. Usually people use the third time. Most people use the third out of the 3 times of
when
the
it passes direct, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
So the whole, it's obviously it's not the beginning of the process, but it's a process. Let's take Israel.
Yes.
Israel had the last 2 years, I think, a transit.
On the chart, or the natal chart.
Yeah, the lunar Pluto is on the 3rd and 9th
Yes.
axis. So.
Continue.
So, it started, now the 3rd lunar Pluto is a lot of problems, and Israel definitely has a lot of problems with other countries. You could have seen it last year. It started last year, it will last for another year, and it could come to war. So that the process started even at the time of Bush, when I guess we became too demanding. So that's what started it. It started last year when Bush was in ministry.
One idea which is interesting is the factor of reaction. You know?
Yeah.
There is a process, at a certain moment there is a reaction against this
Yeah.
process. And it is very interesting to study that in astrology, that is the reactive process. For instance, the last war, the war, operation in Gaza, was a reaction against something which was existing for a long time, which was the rocketing, which was, for a certain time, it happened as if Israel was not able to react. You know? It was happening all the time, and why, at a certain moment, they could not accept that it would go on like that. This is a very good question for astrology. This movement that sometimes, suddenly, you can't just continue like that. And it happens, for instance, in the war with Hitler, etc. For a certain moment, he could do what he wanted. After a certain moment, there were a reaction. So there is this...
Well, that's one process. If you start something, that's a reaction.
Yes, the reaction may be very interesting, but it's not the same. There is the action which is produced by the sort of natural process.
Yeah.
And this natural process will be stopped at a certain moment
In this
by the people who... But why will it be stopped? Why suddenly what was accepted will not be able to continue or it's being accepted? Or what was tolerated or what was observed without reaction? Why suddenly is there any reaction? I think this is a major question in political life.
because
To know what,
everybody-
until, for instance, a leader wants to know how long will I be able to do what I want without reaction, and when will there be beginning of reactions, I won't continue to do what I was doing so easily. It's cool. It's right for Sarkozy. It's right for Obama. It's right for. So sometimes suddenly, well, it doesn't work like it would work before.
Yeah, when you don't realize that the process is going to a different place than you expected.
Yeah.
Like here, people still don't accept that something in America has changed. They haven't yet internalized, because we as humanity, we don't like, as people, we don't like changes, and we don't adjust our minds to see that the change has occurred. It takes time until something really big explodes, like
Yes, but the paradox, and here I put you in a sort of trap in this discussion. The paradox is that to answer these questions doesn't need a very complex astrology.
No.
And I think the astrology that you are using is relatively quite complex, which is a good point, but also a bad point.
Yeah.
You know, I think astrology would be very credible when you can show a very simple system where things go according to a very simple process, and you will say, okay, this is a time where things will do in general, you know, will go on like that, and in general, and suddenly there will be something which would not let things go on like that. It could be answered with a very simple system.
It's not that complicated. Just you have to learn it. But then
I know, but I mean, it's you know that there is a for the public. For the public, what public knows about astrology? He knows the 12 signs of zodiac. But if you tell them what our astrology work when they are trying to make prevision, he doesn't know. He can read certain results. He doesn't know how they work. So it's a total mystery.
Yeah, right.
You don't know why is it written like that, and why is it even in the horoscopes.
Many people don't. Even here, I think it wasn't that successful like I thought it would be, because you guys give more information, because people were reluctant to learn, to invest a little bit of effort to learn how to calculate it.
Yes.
But let's say again the transit of Israel.
Yes.
It will be 3 years, Pluto, on the third.
But what you mean is, sorry,
That's a process.
You really think that
Indian
you really think that what is true for one country, for instance, what you say, one of the bases of what you say, it all depends on the chart.
Yeah, right.
You have a different chart, things will happen differently.
Yeah.
And even the stars, the same stars will act differently. It's already rather complex. It's not you in particular, but I mean, okay. What is good for what is happening to Israel is for Israel. What is happening for another country is something else. And everybody, well, we have the proof that it's not like that. We have the proof that in many ways, many leaders, many situations develop parallelly.
Yeah.
No matter what country it is.
Oh no, it doesn't matter. But everybody has. Okay. But
you don't need to. For instance, what happens in Israel is basically the same. But of course, you have to relativize the same as what would happen in another country.
Yeah, some are global, some are.
I'm not sure. What, or if you prefer, what makes a difference is not necessarily the stars, but the situation.
Yeah. Okay.
And the situation is not necessarily explained by the stars.
Yeah. Right. But it could coexist. Like it could be parallel. Like, yes, we do have the lunar Pluto when Obama came to be a president.
Yes.
We couldn't say it. We couldn't know it.
Yes.
And no one could. The fact is that it works. It is a turning point for Israel, and Pluto, and lunar Pluto in the third house, which will be also third and ninth, and then solar on the 6th and 12th,
Yes.
is a major transit. Some things do not depend on us. It does. You could say Israel kept all these people as hostages all the time, and they're all conquered and everything, but the fact that, so if we didn't do it, it wouldn't be that bad now. However, no one could say, I could say many years ago, that now, in 2008, 9, and 10, it will be a turning point and it can be a war. But I didn't know Obama would be
for instance, I will give you an example.
In office.
For instance, I will give you an example. You have seen what the Hamas has done during a certain number of years or months, and they did all sorts of things without any reaction. No? Israel could have done the same thing at this moment.
It's not true, because the Israeli army
No.
they killed every day somebody. It was not a no reaction.
But I mean, they could have started some. There are what we call unpunished periods. There are unpunished periods.
No.
Hitler crossed a period where he could do whatever he wanted without reactions, and after unpunished means we use the expression in France, state of grace, that you can do things. Nobody cares.
Yeah, but
they let you do what you want. And if you wait too much time, then suddenly, if you start doing things too late, then you will arrive in a period where it won't work anymore.
Yeah, but it wasn't that way. Like at that time, when there were missiles over Sderot, there were still many more people from Gaza who died.
I was not speaking about reaction of Israel against Hamas. I was reaction of Israel against something else, not necessarily.
Okay.
For instance, Iran, for instance. When is it the right time to do things about Iran? If you wait one more year or one less, it may be different. Because one essential thing we learn today is how important the reaction of the public is. It is essential. Yeah. Is what you do accepted or not? It is even in wars. There are wars that you can do and nobody reacts. And wars you even start the war is already a problem. I mean, so one of the major
I think astrology should be concerned by the major question that mankind has to solve, and the major question that political leaders have to solve. This is a major point. And what are these questions? This is a problem.
Yeah.
If you don't study political science, I mean, what are the questions? For a leader, for any leader, the question is it the right time for me to do things or not to do things, for instance?
Yeah.
And in general, in fact, it is more or less the same time. The only thing is, for instance, if we take the example of Hamas, that Hamas used this period where it was possible, and Israel didn't. It didn't do things extraordinary. I mean, it didn't. So, and why? I will ask you why. You know why? Because it's a matter of leaders. In a certain country, you might have the right leader. In another country, you might have
Yeah, but in Israel,
wrong leader.
for example, it's also a matter of the American leaders. See,
Yes.
we are more dependent. We are definitely dependent
That's
on
right.
other people.
Yes, that's right. So it's a question of groups of leaders. Sometimes one leader has an influence on many countries, and you depend on this leader.
Yeah, I don't think I can solve all the problems of the world but I think that the little I know is a little bit more than was known before.
Ah.
See, I can solve, but I know that there is a process, and I don't know how it will end, but I don't interfere with the decision is up to you. Or up to somebody who has
Sure.
the possibility to do things.
Sorry, excuse me for one